1. So, Madam Speaker, I know this is incredibly hyper-specific, but fuck it, right? Our debate institution has like 0 members. And with the small size pool that we do actually have, none of them have any intention of becoming an officer within the institution, and or they're probably gonna fucking leave. It's funny because even our captain jokes about leaving all the fucking time. The reason this is so important is because the point in which you vilify the person to pursue these types of power or these types of positions of power, it's also the point in which you vilify and box out that very own leadership position from changing, right? This is already directly clashing with opening opposition's case. Why? Because with the perception of this villainization, it will lead to just less people wanting that position to begin with. Joseph gave you 2 massively important things. 1, why it harms the very people who want to rise up and get power in the first place. Secondly, why our counterfactual is better. What I'll extend on is prove why that in and of itself is privy to keeping large institutions to having the same type of leadership, why these people are probably going to be bad, gonna flip opening opposition's arguments, and why you just make the whole world worse when you make it bad to want to have power. Before my substantive material, I just want to respond to OO 3 broad responses. Firstly, LO tells us that pursuing power is somewhat selfish. We think that ego will always be there, right? It's not exclusive to our side because we're all human. In fact, a lot of what LO attempts to respond to is just outcome dependent or to that person coming just to that person, like new person coming into power as being incredibly shitty as the existing administration or like an autocrat. We wouldn't have such a strong dissent for Putin and Hitler had you made an assumption that all of the leaders who wanted to rise up are going to be bad. There was no response to my partner's case on that. Secondly, LO mentions Nelson Mandela. The reason why he had so much support and was able to coalesce the entire continent against apartheid was precisely because there was hope that he was an exemplar. All the successful leaders who rose to success were successful because we gave them the benefit of the doubt without making an assumption of who they were from the get-go. Thirdly, this debate isn't about good leaders versus bad leaders. It's about looking at leadership through a rose-tinted lens or not. We tell you that if you wear rose-tinted glasses, then everything becomes a red flag. So, it makes it tougher to spot real red flags and prevents benevolence from shining through. Even if LO says that good leaders will always be there or will still prevail, that's just a minority of people. You get less attempts on side opposition and leave it to their own capacities to push on and try and succeed. But the majority of outcomes are at some point they'll lose hope and be less likely to try again because of all of the sunken cost already in terms of time, already in terms of effort, already in terms of capacity. There is a nuance here to intently pursuing, meaning spending a lot of money, time, and emotional capacity to pursue. Not everyone has a thick skin, and LO's entire case is contingent on people having that. You get less attempts and even fewer successes on their side, which actually leads me into my extension. Why vilifying people who are perceived to pursue positions of power leads to the best types of people being boxed out from that very position in the begin with. Listen, ambition, drive, and cunning are all good insofar as it enables people to rise above their position and actually lead. No matter how much we put it, the position of power are held reasonably well by those who want it the most. The problem with this villainization is that it literally antagonizes both the cunning and non-cunning or like humble people from wanting to be the group leader, from wanting to be the president, from wanting to be a debate captain. Why is this true? 3 broad reasons. Firstly, positions of power are already hard to manage, right? Regardless of this vilification or not, people are reasonable enough to understand that the act of leadership is a hard business and a hard thing to do in the first place. As what CEO says, right, there's lots of reasons for people who want to pursue this leadership position to begin with. The very problem we are talking about here is that in and of itself, that act of leadership has distance of negativity towards it. Secondly, the people often best to lead and are most fit for these types of things are humble, quiet, and probably don't want that position to begin with. So it's already a huge ask of them. Getting these people in the right positions are hard enough for a plethora of reasons, right? But with this
Point.
villainization, it'll create the mold, no, that these leadership roles are not for them especially. This actually leads to a bunch of impacts. Firstly, people who are competent are likely to not get those types of positions in to begin with, right? Because of all the things that Joseph said about like this perception of them being like really shit. Secondly, people who do have the drive and are good are going to just have more pushback to actually getting that position to begin with. Thirdly, you really have all of those preconceived notions that these positions are themselves hard and are themselves going to have a lot of pushback from the majority of people. So we think that's just like really shit. What are the impacts of this? Firstly, opening opposition talks about corruption. We think that happens more on their side. Why? Because absent the people who are lost to this narrative, because of all the people who are lost to this narrative, of which me and Joseph clearly said, who will be like those in like positions of power actually? I know it's 6, so I'll take CO. Go.
The motion specifically says that we'll villainize people who are intently trying to pursue power, not the humble people you're trying to characterize. Please engage.
No, like that's exactly the point, right? The point in which that these humble people are already have this added narrative of them vilifying it. That's exactly the point in which that they'll get dissuaded like even less, right? They're here right now with this narrative, they'll go to like here. So like we want these people in power with the added vilification, you just don't get it, right? I truly want to hear the comparative because without dissent and people vying for power, people like Mao, people like Hitler, people like Putin, they're going to stay in power. Their cronies are going to stay in power. You gave the average person the perception of, well, I'm not going to do anything. And even if I intently wanted to begin with, I'm probably not going to do anything and I'm probably going to have all of those pushbacks. So, on our side, you just give people a sense of hope, right? As what Joseph says. All of those important things that actually want to strive to become leaders, intently to have all of that, like a humbleness or to have all of that ambition and drive, it just happens more on our side. You don't want another Putin. You don't want all of those other autocratic leaders. For all of those reasons, we're very proud to propose.